At the promotion meeting, I smiled and said, "I can't wait for my raise." My husband, who also happened to be my boss, chuckled. "Raise? Oh no. I gave it to Hazel." HR confirmed I wasn't even on the list. Hazel grinned and simply said she'd forgotten to mention it. That afternoon, I cleared my desk. But what I did next, no one expected. I walked into the conference room, holding my portfolio of achievements. "I can't wait for my raise," I said. Jasper finally looked up from his phone, his expression making my chest tighten. Not pride, not support, amusement, pure and obvious amusement at my expense. "Raise?" He slowly set his phone down. "Oh no, Aurora, I gave it to Hazel." The bright fluorescent lights felt harsher now, illuminating every uncomfortable glance around the room. Bethany, from HR, cleared her throat and slid a folder across the table, tapping it twice before pulling back. "You weren't even considered for the position, Aurora. The decision was made last week." I stood frozen, portfolio clutched to my chest, watching Hazel Morrison enter in her new red heels, the same pair she'd shown me last month, asking if they were too much for the office. I told her they were perfect for making an impression. She caught my eye and offered a small shrug. "Forgot to mention it," she said, settling into the chair across from me. "Before we continue, if you've ever been overlooked for a promotion you earned, please consider subscribing. It's free and helps us share stories of women who refuse to accept less than their worth." Inside my portfolio were 8 months of evidence, the campaigns I'd led that stopped client losses, the Campbell Industries project I'd worked on until 3 a.m. for 2 weeks straight, retaining a $2 million contract, the Morrison Hotels crisis I'd handled before it went public, the overhaul of our digital marketing strategy that boosted engagement by 340%. None of that mattered now. I placed the portfolio on the table without opening it. "I see. Well, I'll need the afternoon to transition my current projects." "That one set be necessary," Hazel said with newfound confidence. "I've already been briefed on everything." Jasper had been updating her for a month during which I'd been preparing for this very presentation, practicing in the shower, budgeting for the kitchen renovation my raise would fund, while my husband trained my replacement. The same man who listened to me rehearse at dinner, nodded at my portfolio layouts, and never once mentioned this meeting would end my career. I walked out without another word. My desk sat in the corner of the marketing department, small, crowded, despite my unofficial role running operations. Through the window of Hazel's new office, I could see her shopping bags from lunch piled up on the credenza. Timothy, a young colleague, stood by my desk, tablet in hand, looking nervous. "Aura, the Campbell Industries presentation needs final approval before." "Give it to Hazel," I said, packing my personal items, the orchid I'd nursed through 2 winters, the mug Emma gave me that read, "World's Best Multitasker," the framed photo from our retreat, where I'd been named Employee of the Quarter 3 times in a row. But Hazel doesn't know the Campbell account. She's never even met their team. I paused, looking at his earnest face. 24, fresh out of grad school, still believing hard work guaranteed recognition. Then she better learn quickly. The drive home took 17 minutes. I counted every red light, every mile putting distance between me and the building where I'd given everything and received nothing. Our house sat on a tree-lined street in Portland's Laurelhurst neighborhood, the kind of home successful couples buy to build a future. The kitchen still needed renovating. Now it would stay as it was. I set my box on the dining table and noticed the Campbell Industries contract on Jasper's desk. The margins were filled with handwritten notes, not Jasper's angular handwriting I knew from 12 years of marriage, but Hazel's, dates going back 6 weeks. Notes on strategies I'd created, client details I'd painstakingly built. My phone buzzed with a text from Emma at college. "How did the big meeting go, Mom? Did you get it?" I stared at her words, thinking of tuition bills, student loans, promises we'd made to support her dreams, while mine were being quietly dismantled. The house already felt different. Not a home, but a stage where I'd been playing the supportive wife, missing the signs the show was ending. My perfected Campbell Industries presentation still sat on my laptop, ready for a meeting that would never happen. The coffee maker still held Jasper's usual brew I'd made that morning, believing we were partners. 3 months I'd had that Thursday circled on my calendar. 3 months believing excellence would be rewarded. That dedication meant something, that the person sleeping beside me valued my work beyond my ability to save accounts while someone else got the credit. I opened my laptop and began making a list. Not achievements this time, not campaigns. This was every password, every client contact, every system I'd built that they didn't know existed. Because while Jasper thought he'd denied me a raise, what he'd done was light a fuse. The cursor blinked at the end of the last password I documented. My hands hovered over the keyboard. The house was too quiet, the kind of silence where you hear your own heartbeat. Jasper would be home in 2 hours, and I needed to decide what kind of evening this would be. The supportive wife preparing dinner, or the woman whose career had just been dismantled by the man who should have had her back. My phone vibrated again. Timothy, Morrison Hotels is in full panic mode. Hazel told them you quit without notice. They sipped, threatening to pull the contract. I stared at the message, feeling something shift inside me. Not anger, but a sharp, cold clarity. Hazel had started her story already. Aurora the deserter. Aurora the unprofessional. Aurora who couldn't handle losing. I typed back, not my problem anymore, but deleted it. Timothy didn't deserve the coldness meant for others. The front door opened at 6:47. Jasper's usual time. His keys hit the bowl by the entrance. His footsteps paused at the dining room, where my office box still sat, then moved to the kitchen where I stood chopping vegetables for a salad neither of us would eat. "Hey," he said, loosening his tie, "what's seps for dinner?" The casual normality made my hand tighten on the knife. He reached for a beer, his cologne filling the space between us, the same scent I'd chosen for him at Christmas, because it reminded me of confidence and success. Now it smelled like betrayal hidden under routine. "Jasper." I set the knife down and turned to face him. "We need to talk about today." He popped the beer cap against the counter, a habit I'd asked him to stop because it left marks on the granite. "What about today?" "The promotion meeting. Hazel. The fact you've been training her for my job for a month, while I prepared a presentation you knew was pointless." He exhaled the way people do when they think you sit or overreacting. "We talked about this possibility. The board has concerns about appearances. A husband promoting his wife doesn't look good, especially with the Fletcher acquisition coming up." The Fletcher acquisition I structured, the one I spent 3 weeks courting their CMO for? Exactly why we need someone like Hazel, someone without personal connections that could look like conflicts of interest. He took a long drink, avoiding my eyes. "This is what sits best for the company. Someone like Hazel, who asked me last week what ROI stands for." His jaw tightened. "She seps learning on my frameworks, using my relationships, taking credit for campaigns I built at 3 a.m. while you slept beside me. That seps how business works, Aurora. You knew that when we got married, you knew there would be complicated situations." I laughed, genuine amusement at the mental gymnastics it took to make this my fault. Complicated situations. That sips what we sips are calling it when you hand over my work to someone else while lying to my face about it. I never lied. For the past month, you watched me prepare for that meeting every morning. You listened as I practiced my presentation over dinner. Last night, you shared my bed, knowing that today you would let me be humiliated in front of the entire leadership team. What would you call that? He placed his beer on the counter, condensation forming a ring on the granite. I stepped, call it protecting you. Do you know what people say about us? That you only have your role because of me. This way, when you succeed, it sits on your own merit. When I succeed, I step already proven myself. I shook my head. Every campaign keeping this company profitable this quarter has my work behind it. The only thing you sip protected me from is being credited for what I built. The doorbell rang sharply, followed by knocking. Neither of us moved at first. That's probably Margaret, I said, remembering my sister's text about returning books. But when I opened the door, Hazel Morrison stood there. She had swapped her red heels for designer sneakers, her power suit for yoga clothes that likely cost more than most rent payments. Her smile was different now, genuine, casual, like we were friends about to meet for coffee. Hi, Aurora. I hope I Sepp not interrupting dinner. Behind me, Jasper Sepp's footsteps approached. Hazel, what are you doing here? You left your laptop at the office, she replied, addressing him. Not me. She pulled his MacBook from her oversized bag. You said you needed it for the Fletcher presentation tomorrow, so I thought I said bring it by on my way to Pilates. On her way to Pilates? Our house was at least 15 minutes off any route between the office and a studio. Jasper took the laptop, his fingers brushing hers. The gesture was small but familiar. Thanks, he said. No problem. Hazel Sepp's eyes flicked to me, then back to him. For tomorrow Sepp's presentation, should I use Aurora Sepp's deck or create something new? Create something new, Jasper said, without hesitation. We need a fresh perspective. She nodded. Great. I still see you at 7 for our breakfast meeting. Then she turned to me for the first time. Gara, I stam sorry about today. I know it must have been unexpected, but I stam sure you understand this is what stam's best for everyone. Her words were polished, carefully chosen to sound sympathetic without admitting any wrongdoing. I could have asked the questions burning inside me, could have confronted her about how much she had taken, but instead I smiled, the same professional smile I had used in conference rooms and client dinners. Of course, Hazel, I understand perfectly. She blinked, perhaps expecting tears or anger. When neither came, she grew uneasy. Well, I should get to class. After she left, Jasper shut the door. See, she Sepp's trying to be professional. Professional? I repeated. Is that what we call showing up at her manager Sip's home in workout clothes to deliver a laptop that could have waited until tomorrow? Don't make this something it's not, he said. But I was already walking upstairs. In the closet, I pulled out the suitcase we had bought for our honeymoon 12 years ago, the faded Maui luggage tag still attached. Paradise found, it read. The irony almost made me laugh. What are you doing? Jasper asked from the doorway. Getting some space to think. Aurora, don't be dramatic. It's just a job. I held a sweater Emma had given me last Christmas. You stage right. It's just a job, and this is just a marriage where my husband orchestrated my humiliation while his protege drops by in yoga clothes. Nothing dramatic at all. By Friday morning, neither of us had slept. He'd stayed downstairs while I lay awake, weighing 12 years of marriage against 8 months of lies. The math never balanced. At 6 a.m., my phone buzzed with an automated message. Your remote access has been terminated. I grabbed my company laptop, fingers flying across the keyboard, before lockout was complete. A download bar crept across the screen. 8 months of emails, project files, and correspondence that proved exactly what I had built and what had been stolen. One email from 3 months earlier stopped me cold. Jasper to Hazel, confidential. Urzura is too emotionally invested in her campaigns to see the bigger picture. We need someone who can separate feelings from strategy. Let's discuss your transition timeline over dinner, Thursday. Thursday. I remembered it. I had been in Seattle helping my mother after her surgery. Jasper had said he was too busy with quarterly reports to join me. The download finished, just as the laptop went dark. Access revoked. But I had what I needed. I took screenshots with my phone while scrambling eggs. Jasper wouldn't eat, keeping the appearance of a normal morning routine while our marriage fell apart in real time. He sat at the counter, pretending to read the news. "I'll stay at Margaret's for a few days," I said, sliding eggs onto a plate. "This is ridiculous. Aurora, you're overreacting to a professional decision." My phone rang before I could answer. Margaret's name flashed on the screen. "Hey Max," she said. "Don Seftis. Hey Max Seftis me. I just saw your LinkedIn post about Seft exploring new opportunities. Seftis, what happened? And Don Seftis, give me corporate talk. I Seftis me your sister." I glanced at Jasper, who had stiffened at the mention of LinkedIn. "It's Sep's complicated. Can I call you back?" "Wait, before you hang up, I need to tell you something. 6 weeks ago, when I was downtown for a conference, I saw Jasper at Romano's. He was with that woman from his office, the redhead, Hazel. They were at that corner table you always say is too romantic for business dinners. He was laughing, touching her hand. I figured you knew, but it didn't feel right. 6 weeks ago, I'd been at my desk working late on the Morrison Hotel's crisis, while Jasper claimed to be at a board dinner. Thanks for telling me, Margaret. I still call you later." After I hung up, Jasper's tablet lay flat on the counter, his knuckles white. "It sits not what you think," he said. I said, "Not thinking anything. I said, just connecting dots. I should have seen months ago." The rest of Friday, I turned our dining room into an evidence board. The table once meant for family dinners now held 3 piles. The first pile, Hazel's expense reports. Client dinners at restaurants, no clients visited. Conferences she never attended. Travel receipts unrelated to any meetings. Nearly $40,000 in questionable expenses, all approved by Jasper. The second pile, proof of my work. Every Campbell Industries document with my metadata showing creation dates, revisions, and signatures. The presentation Hazel claimed as her own had been developed by me through 17 versions since January. The third pile, security badge records. I had saved them months ago during an efficiency audit, but never submitted them. They showed Jasper and Hazel swiping into the executive floor late at night, on 7 different Saturdays. Always when I was away in Seattle, always leaving minutes apart around 2 a.m. By midnight, the table was covered in evidence. My phone buzzed only with messages from coworkers wondering about my absence and texts from Emma about her classes. Still unaware her parents' marriage was unraveling thread by thread, I couldn't tell her yet. Not until I understood the full scope. Sunday came gray and drizzling. Portland's usual weather. I was buried in spreadsheets, when my phone rang with a number I rarely saw. Dennis Palmer, the longest-serving board member and one of the few who'd known me before I was Jasper's wife. "Aurora." His voice was measured, careful. "I heard about Thursday Sep's meeting. News travels fast." "Indeed it does. Listen, I step calling from my personal phone for a reason. There are changes coming at the company, and you should protect your interests." I set down the Campbell Industries file. "What kind of changes?" "I can say much, but not everyone on the board agrees with recent personnel decisions. Some of us remember who secured the Morrison Hotel's account, who kept Campbell from walking away." "Dennis, what are you telling me?" He paused. "Tim telling you that workplace relationships crossing professional boundaries concern the board, especially when they affect company performance and shareholder value. Document everything. Aurora, everything." "I already am." "Good. And one more thing, review the company SEP's ethics policy, particularly the section on disclosure of personal relationships between executives and direct reports." The call ended abruptly. I stared at my phone, then at the security badge records showing those late-night office visits. Dennis had confirmed what the evidence already suggested, but I had resisted admitting. This wasn't only about professional betrayal or marital dishonesty. Jasper and Hazel's relationship had crossed ethical and corporate boundaries with consequences that could damage them both. I reviewed the Campbell Industries contract again, noticing Hazel's handwritten notes. They weren't strategic points, they were personal reminders. Jay says emphasize innovation. Check with Jay before finalizing. Jay likes this approach. Jay, not Jasper, not Mr. Wallace. Just Jay, written with familiarity that went back months before her promotion. The truth wasn't unraveling anymore. It had already come apart, leaving me with the pieces of a life I thought I understood. But recognition was not the same as acceptance, and deciding what to do with this knowledge became the next challenge. That question kept me awake Sunday night, staring at the ceiling while rain tapped against the windows. By Monday morning, I had my answer. If they wanted to play corporate games, I would show them the consequences of underestimating me. The coffee shop on Burnside was intentional, away from the office district, but busy enough for privacy. Rebecca Chin arrived first, still polished despite 4 months of unemployment after her sudden departure as CFO. She looked thinner, her suit looser, but her handshake remained firm. "Thank you for meeting me," I said, sliding into the booth I had chosen. "When you called, I wondered how long it would take before someone else noticed." Rebecca replied, wrapping her hands around her coffee. "Let me guess. Jasper finally showed his real side." "What do you mean?" I asked. She laughed without humor. "Finance meetings that ran late whenever you were out of town. Invitations to discuss budgets over drinks. Standing too close while reviewing reports, his hand on my back." She looked directly at me. "I documented everything, Aurora. Every comment, every inappropriate meeting. HR ignored it. Bethany reports to him." My stomach turned, though I kept a neutral expression. "Why didn't Setu tell me?" "You spare his wife." What could I say? "Your husband corners me in empty conference rooms?" She pulled a flash drive from her purse. "But I saved records. Financial ones too. Hazel Sepp's department looks profitable on paper, but the real numbers show otherwise." The spreadsheets revealed fraud on a larger scale than my own evidence. Hazel had billed hours to client accounts for work never done, shifted expenses between departments, and claimed failed campaigns as wins. $3 million fabricated over 18 months. My second meeting was with Jennifer Park, former head of strategic planning who had resigned 6 months earlier. She sat near the window, eyes scanning the street. "Hazel Morrison is a fraud," she began directly. "Every campaign she's claimed came from someone else. She can't draft a basic creative brief." When I pointed it out, Jasper accused me of being territorial. When I brought proof, he said I was creating a hostile environment. She slid a folder across the table, emails showing Hazel's incompetence, client complaints, and her termination agreement with a silence clause she was now breaking. The third meeting nearly didn't happen. Sandra Williams, former VP of Operations, initially refused, but when I mentioned Rebecca and Jennifer, she agreed. We spoke in her car in a parking garage. "I lasted longer because I'm older and less threatening," Sandra explained, her knuckles white on the wheel. "But when I reported Hazel's use of company credit cards for personal expenses, Jasper accused me of jealousy. Jealous of someone half my age who can't calculate ROI? She handed me an envelope, statements for designer purchases, jewelry, and trips disguised as legitimate expenses, all approved by Jasper. By the time I returned home, I had more than enough evidence to bring them down, but evidence without strategy meant little. I spent Monday drafting an email to the board, 17 versions until every word was precise, not accusations, concerns, not hostility, questions, professional observations about patterns that could affect shareholder value. The email pointed to issues without outright blame. Hazel's promotion coincided with suspicious spending increases. Client retention had dropped 20% since her expanded role, masked by account reshuffling. Marketing department turnover had tripled, with exit interviews citing leadership concerns never addressed. I attached Rebecca's financial analysis, carefully scrubbed of identifiers. The numbers would make the case on their own. Tuesday brought an unexpected turn. Emma appeared at my door, backpack in hand, worry on her face. "Mom, your texts have been strange. What's happening?" I looked at my daughter, 21, with her father Sep's eyes, but my determination. "Come in, I'll show you." She studied the dining room table piled with evidence. Is Dad having an affair? With Hazel, among other things. She didn't look surprised. Sep's always at our events, laughing at his jokes. Last Thanksgiving, she called him Set Jazzy. Seps, I almost said something. "Why didn't Set you?" "Because you seemed happy. I thought I imagined it." She picked up a security badge report. But this isn't Sept imagination. Emma spent hours setting up encrypted email, VPN, and secure storage. Computer science major. Remember, if you're fighting this, protect your communications. We worked until midnight, united in purpose. She told me how Jasper often minimized my achievements at dinners, claiming my ideas were simplified versions of his. How he told her boyfriend last Christmas that I was good at execution, but lacked vision. "You're the smartest person I know, Mom. He just couldn't handle it." By Wednesday, I maintained appearances. Buying wine for book club at the grocery store. My phone rang. Marcus Whitman, CEO of Meridian Global, our top competitor. "Mrs. Wallace, Sep followed your situation. We stare expanding and need someone with your expertise." "How did you?" Portland Sep's business community is small. Word spreads when talent becomes available. I stem offering you the director role, with promotion to VP in 6 months if you bring 3 accounts. Standing in the rain, I negotiated terms I'd never dared ask for at Jasper's firm, signing bonus, equity, and rights to approach select clients. I settle take it. Excellent. Start Monday. The fuse was lit. My email to the board would go out Thursday night. My resignation letter was drafted, the evidence backed up in multiple locations. Thursday, 11:47 p.m. I pressed send. Nothing left but to wait. By Monday, the impact would be unavoidable. At 6 a.m., I woke to 17 texts. Timothy's messages came rapidly. "Emergency board meeting, Jasper looks exhausted." "Linda just walked out. What's happening?" Linda Martinez, Jasper's assistant for 3 years, had been called in at 8 a.m., questioned about badge records. She removed her ID, placed it on the table, and left silently. That silence said enough. By 9 a.m., more updates arrived. Hazel was seen crying in the bathroom. HR's Bethany was making frantic calls after being locked out of the executive meeting. I made coffee while Emma slept upstairs. Then began phase 2. My LinkedIn article was ready. When Merit Meets Politics, a case study in corporate leadership failure. No names, no company identifiers, just a professional analysis of what happens when personal relationships override sound executive decisions. I published the article at exactly noon, the time most professionals check their feeds during lunch. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Within 30 minutes, over 40 comments appeared. Women shared experiences of being overlooked in favor of less qualified men. Men described watching unskilled colleagues advance due to connections while real talent left. The thread quickly became a collective outlet for anyone who had faced workplace betrayal. At 2:17 p.m., the most important comment appeared. Robert Campbell, CEO of Campbell Industries, our biggest client, wrote, "Leadership transitions should never disrupt client relationships or project continuity. I'm concerned about recent changes, and would like direct communication from Aurora Wallace regarding our campaigns. Minutes later, my phone rang. It was Robert directly. Aurora, I just heard about your departure. Unacceptable. You SIP are the only reason we SIP stayed with that company. We SIP invested $2 million in strategies you created. I understand your concerns, Robert. The transition happened quickly. There is no transition, he said firmly. Hazel Morrison called this morning, claiming she SIP's been managing our account, but she couldn't answer basic questions. She didn't even know we shifted to the Southwest market last quarter. I'm sure she'll get up to speed quickly, I said neutrally, though I knew she wouldn't. We need you. If you are available for consulting, we want to retain you immediately. I accepted a position with Meridian Global. I start Monday. He paused, then laughed. Marcus Whitman finally made the right move. Good for him and good for us. We'll reach out to Meridian about moving our account. The dominoes were falling faster than expected. By 3 p.m., Hazel sent a company-wide email that would later be remembered for its complete lack of awareness. She claimed credit for the Campbell relationship, the Morrison Hotel's resolution, and 3 other major wins that had my work written all over them. What she didn't realize was that I had already forwarded original files with full metadata to those clients. By 3:45, Morrison Hotels called Jasper directly. Timothy texted me fragments he overheard. Yes, sir, I understand your concerns. Aurora was integral. We can ensure continuity. Please don't make hasty decisions. Sterling Communications followed at 4:15, then Pinnacle Brands at 4:42. 3 major clients, each threatening to leave, all citing the same concern, the loss of their strategic contact, me. Emma came downstairs around 4 o'clock, finding me at the dining table surrounded by Meridian contracts and resignation paperwork. The internet loves your article, she said, showing me her phone. It's been shared 800 times. Someone started a hashtag, #merit-over-politics. I didn't mean to start a movement. Maybe not, but you gave people permission to tell their stories. That matters, Mom. At 6:27, Jasper SIP's car pulled into the driveway. Emma looked at me. Want me to leave? No. Stay, you should see this. He walked in looking defeated. Tie loose, hair disheveled, face pale. He ignored Emma and looked at me. Aurora, we need to talk. We are talking. Emma stays. She should know who her father really is. He hesitated, then nodded. Fine. The board SIP's investigating. Linda quit. 3 clients are threatening to leave. You SIP destroyed everything we built. Everything I built. I have 8 months of records proving it. While you spent nights with Hazel at the office. His face drained of color. That SIP's not. I have security records, expense reports, and emails where you dismissed me as C2 emotional SIFT, while training Hazel for my role. She sits not. Stop. I have Catherine Vulov SIP's article. Publishing tomorrow in Business Pacific Quarterly. 17 employees quoted anonymously about the toxic culture you created. Rebecca SIP's unexplained exit. Jennifer SIP's resignation. Sandra SIP's silence agreement. It's SIP's all documented. He sank into a chair, scanning the highlighted pages. Each detail made him flinch. A culture where personal ties determined advancement. Women forced out for questioning leadership. Expense issues overlooked when the right person was involved. They can print this. I still sue. With what resources? Once the board sees Rebecca SIP's financial records, you still be defending yourself in court, not suing anyone. You stir vindictive. Careful. Emma cut in sharply. That SIP's my mother you are insulting. The woman who saved your company while you played executive with Hazel. He looked between us, realizing he had lost more than a corporate fight. Aurora, please. I'll give you the promotion. a 50% raise. Hazel will be gone tomorrow. ICEP already accepted a position with Meridian as Director of Strategic Marketing. They are also interested in acquiring several clients, already questioning your leadership. You can sit. The non-compete, the one my lawyer confirmed unenforceable. Since you violated company ethics policy, that one? He had nothing left to say. The man who always had excuses sat silent in the ruins of his choices. Emma and I left him there, upstairs packing the last of our things. Tomorrow, Catherine's article would go live. Wednesday, I'd start at Meridian. By Friday, Campbell Industries would officially transition. The dominoes hadn't just fallen. They formed a pattern pointing directly at who was responsible. Emma and I packed the final box in silence, tape echoing through the empty bedroom. 12 years of memories, boxed and labeled, ready for separate futures. We loaded the truck without looking back at the house where our family had slowly fractured. Monday morning was clear and bright, the kind of Portland spring day that felt like new beginnings. The Meridian Global building stood tall in the Pearl District, a symbol of what real leadership creates. My new assistant, David Park, greeted me in the lobby with a smile. "Welcome to Meridian, Miss Wallace. Your office is ready. 22nd floor, corner suite with a view of Mount Hood." The elevator ride felt like rising into a new life. Marcus Whitman stood waiting with coffee in hand. Catarora, perfect timing. Campbell signed their contract this morning. They requested you personally oversee strategy. Robert Campbell called you irreplaceable. My office was everything my old cubicle wasn't: floor-to-ceiling windows, designer furniture, and space for client meetings. On the desk sat a nameplate, Aurora Wallace, Director of Strategic Marketing. No longer someone's wife, no longer an afterthought, just my name, my work. I sat at the desk, touched the smooth surface, and removed my wedding ring. The pale skin beneath felt exposed, but free. I placed it in the drawer beside a photo of Emma and me at her graduation, both laughing. No Jasper, no pretense, just us. 3 more clients called this morning, David said, placing a list on my desk. Morrison Hotels wants to meet. Sterling Communications is ready to sign. Pinnacle Brands requested a proposal by Friday. Tuesday morning, I arrived to an inbox full of messages. Business Pacific Quarterly had published Catherine's article overnight. Names weren't included, but the description left no doubt who it was about. It outlined a Portland marketing executive whose incompetence was hidden by taking credit for others, supported by a company president who valued personal ties over results. 17 employees described a culture of favoritism, fear, and failure disguised as success. Financial records showed a pattern of deception that bordered on fraud. My phone buzzed constantly. Former colleagues thanking me, competitors offering roles, clients confirming their move to Meridian. But one message stood out from Bethany in HR. Aurora, I'm sorry for my part in what happened. I knew it was wrong, but fear kept me silent. You deserved better. If you have advice for leaving a toxic environment, I'd appreciate it. I replied carefully. Document everything. Find a labor attorney. Don't sign anything without legal review. You already know the truth. Use it to protect yourself and others. Good luck. By Wednesday evening, Emma drove up from Eugene to help me settle into my new apartment. It was smaller than the house, just a 2-bedroom in the Alberta Arts District, but every square foot belonged to me. We hung my awards on the living room wall, plaques and certificates. Jasper had once pushed into the garage, saying they made the house look cluttered. This place feels more like home already, Emma said as she unpacked kitchen boxes. No pretending, no tension, just you being you. We ate Chinese takeout on the floor, surrounded by boxes when she set down her chopsticks deliberately. Mom, I need to tell you something. I step in changing my name. What do you mean? I step taking your maiden name, Wallace. I step already started the paperwork. I don't want to carry the name of a man who betrayed you. I want the name of the woman who stood up, rebuilt, and proved integrity matters more than convenience. My throat tightened. Emma, he sips still your father. Biologically, yes. But you stir the parent who showed me what truth and strength look like. I want to be Emma Wallace. The next day, I had lunch with Catherine Vulov to celebrate her article's success. It had been picked up by 3 national outlets, and she was already drafting a follow-up about women rebuilding after professional betrayal. We sat by the river, watching boats pass, when a courier appeared with an envelope, legal papers, divorce. Catherine started to excuse herself, but I waved her to stay. Might as well witness this. It sits part of the story. The documents were clear. Jasper wanted a quick, quiet divorce. He'd keep the house, I'd keep my retirement accounts. The prenup I'd insisted on 12 years ago, despite his objections, protected both my inheritance and my future earnings. His company stock, already down 15% since Catherine's article, would be split per our agreement. Most of his wealth had already disappeared with the company's falling value. I signed each page without hesitation, the same signature I had used that morning on $8 million worth of new client contracts. Any regrets? Catherine asked softly. I looked at my bare ring finger, the divorce papers, and my new business card. Regret would mean I still want to change something. Every choice led me here. An office, loyal clients, and a daughter proud to carry my name. The only regret is not seeing the truth sooner. That evening, I stood at my apartment window watching the Portland skyline light up. My phone buzzed with 17 new client inquiries, a meeting request from the mayor's office about leading a women's development initiative, and a text from Emma. Proud of you, Mom. Wallace women don't just survive, we thrive. I realized then I wasn't watching the end of anything. I was watching a beginning. 6 months passed in a blur of earned successes. In October, an invitation arrived. I had been selected as keynote speaker for the Pacific Northwest Marketing Summit. 3,000 industry professionals wanted to hear me speak on innovation, leadership, and building ethical corporate cultures. Backstage, adjusting my microphone, I glanced through the curtain. There he was, Jasper, 7 rows back, his hair grayer, his frame thinner, his posture carrying defeat. Ladies and gentlemen, the announcer Sepp's voice echoed, please welcome Aurora Wallace, Chief Marketing Officer of Meridian Global. The applause carried me onto the stage. For 45 minutes, I outlined how to build cultures where talent thrives and politics fail. I shared Meridian's results, case studies from clients who had followed me, and stories of employees finally recognized for their contributions. I never mentioned Jasper by name, but everyone in the room knew the background. The standing ovation lasted 4 minutes. As I left the stage, my phone buzzed. A text from Jasper's new number. Aurora, please. 5 minutes. I need to explain. I deleted it without responding. 3 days later, Marcus Whitman called me in. Aurora, we Sepp been approached about acquiring Cascade Marketing. Jasper Sepp's company. The irony was complete. The firm that denied me a raise and handed my role to someone unqualified was now failing and desperate for a buyer. Marcus slid a folder across his desk. The board wants you to lead the acquisition team. You know their assets better than anyone. The conference room hadn't changed. Same polished table, same leather chairs, same downtown view, but this time, I sat at the head, Meridian's legal team beside me, facing Jasper and his diminished board. The terms are non-negotiable, I began. Meridian will absorb your profitable accounts. We'll honor existing contracts, but under new management. As for personnel, I pulled out 2 termination agreements. Hazel Morrison's name was on one, Jasper's was on the other. His role as CEO would end immediately, with only a modest severance. His house was already in foreclosure. his car repossessed. The man who once dismissed me as too emotional now sat with nothing left to bargain. I signed both termination papers with the same steady hand I'd used on my resignation years before. Aurora, Jasper Sip's voice cracked. Can we discuss? The terms are final. Legal will handle the transition. I stood, gathering my documents. This meeting is concluded. That evening, my mother joined me for my official installation as CMO. Over dinner, she raised a glass. I never liked him, even at your wedding. Something felt wrong. He always needed to be the center, always downplayed your accomplishments. I suspected the affair too, the way Hazel looked at him at your birthday dinner, but I trusted you to handle it. And look what you've built. You didn't just survive. Aurora, you conquered. The next morning, I arrived at my office early. The sunrise lit Mount Hood in shades of gold, a view Jasper's office never offered. On my desk were expansion plans for the 3 companies that had followed me from Cascade to Meridian. Campbell Industries had tripled their budget. Morrison Hotels had launched a nationwide campaign already winning awards. Sterling Communications had gone public with a valuation that made early investors wealthy. I had built an empire, not through revenge, but through results that couldn't be denied. Every success earned, every achievement credited properly. My phone buzzed with a LinkedIn notification. Jasper had updated his profile, seeking new opportunities in consulting. The same platform, where he once announced my replacement, was now broadcasting his downfall. I closed the notification and opened my board meeting presentation. 3 new clients were ready to sign. 2 more wanted partnership discussions. And Emma would soon join the team as a junior strategist after graduation. The Wallace women were building something meant to outlast any betrayal, dismissal, or attempt to silence us. Success, I'd learned, wasn't about titles handed out or raises withheld. It was about knowing your value and never letting others convince you otherwise. The board presentation went smoothly. 3 clients signed contracts worth a combined $12 million in annual revenue. As I walked back to my office, sunlight reflected off the marble floors of Meridian Global's lobby, and I caught my reflection in the elevator doors. The woman looking back wore confidence, like a tailored suit, earned through challenges that might have broken someone less determined. 1 year. That's all it had taken to turn Meridian's marketing division from capable into an industry leader. Revenue had tripled. Client retention was at 97%. Employee satisfaction led the company charts. On a Thursday afternoon, exactly a year after that difficult promotion meeting, Marcus Whitman called me into his office. Aurora. The board met yesterday. Unanimous decision. You sipped her, our newest director, the youngest woman in Meridian SEP's 40-year history. I stood at the window of his corner office, looking down at the city, across the skyline. I could see the building where I once asked for basic recognition, now dwarfed by Meridian's tower. I accept, I said simply. No speech needed. My work had already spoken. That Monday, Emma walked into my office in her cap and gown, holding her University of Oregon diploma, summa cum laude in marketing and communications. Her thesis on ethical leadership had been called groundbreaking. She came straight from graduation to accept her position as junior analyst on my team. Ready to get to work, Miss Wallace? I asked. Proud to use her chosen name. Ready to learn from the best, Miss Wallace, she replied, setting her diploma on my desk. We started immediately. Morrison Hotels was preparing a European expansion, and I wanted her input, not because she was my daughter, but because she had earned her place. That afternoon, we worked side by side. She had my eye for detail, but her own creative vision that impressed our clients. When she presented her concepts during a video call, the Morrison team approved instantly. No one mentioned our relationship. They saw only a talented young strategist. 3 weeks later, at the Western Marketing Alliance conference in Seattle, I was reviewing my keynote notes when I heard a familiar voice. Jasper was at the registration desk, fumbling with his credit cards to pay the late fee. His suit was inexpensive, his shoes worn, his demeanor strained. "Sir, your card has been declined," the attendant said quietly. Jasper tried two more, each one rejected. Industry gossip said his consulting firm was just him and two junior contractors in a shared office, with a local mattress chain as his largest client. I could have ignored the scene. Instead, I stepped forward. "Put Mr. Wallace's registration on Meridian's account," I told the attendant. Jasper turned, surprised, embarrassed, maybe even grateful. "Aurora, It's Miss Wallace," I corrected calmly. "Enjoy the conference." Later, during my keynote on sustainable success through authentic leadership, I noticed him in the back row, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. When our eyes met, I felt nothing, not anger, not satisfaction, just recognition of a history that no longer defined me. Afterward, a young woman waited until the crowd dispersed. She introduced herself as Grace Thompson from Bradley Marketing. "I'm going through something similar to what you faced," she said quietly. "My manager takes credit for my campaigns and blocks my advancement, but he's the CEO's golf buddy. I don't know what to do." We stepped aside into a quieter corner. For half an hour, Grace described stolen work, gaslighting, and a toxic environment eroding her confidence. It was my story, different names, same injustice. "Everyone says to fight it out, prove myself, but I'm exhausted," she admitted. "Can I tell you what I learned the hard way?" I said, handing her my card. "Sometimes the smartest choice is to walk away, not in defeat, but as strategy. The energy you spending convincing people who refuse to see your worth could build something remarkable elsewhere." On the back, I wrote Marcus Whitman Sips, direct line. "Tell him I recommended you. We have an opening in digital. Your skills would be a fit. But leaving, won't it look like failure?" she asked. "Failure is staying where you station, not valued. Success is finding, or creating, a place where you are." I also advised her to document everything before resigning, not for revenge, but protection. Truth has a way of surfacing when it's needed. That evening, I video called Emma, who was polishing the Morrison Hotel's presentation. "Mom, I just got an email from Robert Campbell. He said our campaign concept is exactly what they've been looking for and wants to increase the budget by 30%. That's your win. Emma, own it." I learned from the best, she smiled. Not just marketing, but how to stand tall even when others try to make you small. As we talked, I looked over Seattle's skyline. Somewhere in the city, Grace was likely planning her exit. Emma was shaping her career on merit and integrity. And my mother was probably telling her book club about her daughter, the CMO and director. The woman who once left a conference room with a box of belongings and a broken heart had become someone stronger, not through revenge, but by refusing to accept less than she deserved. Later, I reviewed the recommendation letter I wrote for Grace. It focused on her strengths, carefully avoiding mention of her current employer. Signing it digitally, I realized my real legacy wasn't titles or revenue. It was helping other women out of toxic workplaces and showing them that the best response isn't revenge. It's building something so solid that betrayal becomes only a footnote in your success story. If this story of corporate redemption kept you engaged, hit the like button. My favorite moment was when Aurora handed Jasper Catherine Vulov's article and watched his reaction. What was your favorite moment of justice? Share in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss future stories.